So I've been using these VSX modeling headphones for a little over 2 years now, and I tend to use them when I'm away from the studio, when I'm traveling, and I can't access my studio monitors. Now I was noticing on a lot of other VSX reviews some great comments from people asking to do a mix comparison on their loudspeakers, compare it to a mix on VSX, just so the audience can actually hear the difference. And I thought that's a fantastic idea, so that's what I'm going to do in this video. There's a bunch of new features that have been added to VSX, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. I did want to put all those to the test, but what I did is I gave myself 45 minutes to mix a song in VSX, then I waited a day to let my ears reset, and then I did the same mix in 45 minutes on my monitors. Now the reason I did it quickly was that I didn't want to spend any time second or triple guessing all the decisions. I wanted it to be gut instincts. I wanted to set the levels, panning, the depth, the width, EQ, compression. I wanted to get all those things down quickly. I know that if I was using normal headphones, the balance would be all over the place if I did that quickly, so I was pretty interested to see the results. The monitors are a pair of PSIs. They are being corrected with a Trinnov Nova, which is trying to do a lot of room correction to really flatten this room out, and then they're being powered by my Lynx Hilo. With the VSX, I just plugged them straight into my laptop and I was using the Yellow Matters studio room. So let's take a listen to these mixes. The VSX mix and master is in black on the top. The monitor mix and master is in blue in the middle here, and the difference between the two is in red below. Now, if you don't know, to find this difference or delta between the two signals, you simply line them up, and then on one of them, you just reverse the polarity. I was thinking of doing this as a blind test, but there's going to be no trickery. I'm going to tell you which is VSX and which is the monitor mix. We're just going to take a listen right now.
But when it comes down to what you did, oh babe, it was Grand Theft Audio. I gave you every song, you know, went from 3 to 2-dimensional. Was it all that you were in it for? Grand Theft Audio, were all your crimes intentional? Go on, try to let me go. I'll be hiding in your radio. Grand Theft Audio. When it comes down to what you did, oh babe, it was Grand Theft Audio. I gave you every song, you know, went from 3 to 2-dimensional. Was it all that you were in it for? Grand Theft Audio, were all your crimes intentional? Go on, try to let me go. I'll be hiding in your radio. Grand Theft Audio.
It's interesting hearing them now in the video because it's been a few days since I listened to these, and there are some differences, but they're actually really pretty close. Now I'm just going to play quickly cutting between the two, and then we can examine the differences, okay?
Babe, it was Grand Theft Audio. I gave you every song, you know, went from 3 to 2-dimensional. Was it all that you were in it for? Grand Theft Audio, were all your crimes intentional? Go on, try to let me go. I'll be hiding in your radio. Grand Theft Audio.
I've actually just boosted that delta signal so we can actually hear it.
Oh babe, it was Grand Theft Audio. I gave you every song.
So this is everything that's different between the two mixes, and I've boosted the volume up. So depending on what you're listening on, it might be quite subtle, but I do think the VSX mix has those drums a little bit further back in the groove. The bass is a touch light. I do want to address that, and I could have done that if I'd gone into some other rooms, as I'll explain in a moment. But also the vocals are sort of just on top or just within the mix on the VSX mix, whereas on the monitor mix, the vocals are sticking out a little bit too much and I'd want to pull those back. This is something I always find when I'm doing my rough mixes or my demos, is that I go really bold right at the start and then I tend to pull it back in. So I would say the VSX mix is sounding like it's in a more balanced position right away, whereas the monitor mix is quite a bold and strong mix, and I still like it. There's so much stuff I'd want to change. I feel like it needs a little bit more work to pull it in, whereas I'm pretty happy with where the VSX one is at the moment, but I would like to add a bit more bass, to be honest. The purpose of this is not to show that they're exactly the same. Clearly there's differences between those mixes when you listen for them. I just wanted to do something to show that you could trust either system to be able to get a balance like that quickly without having to second or triple guess yourself in every decision you're making. I didn't have to use VSX and then go listen on a whole bunch of other stuff. The same is true of a good, well-calibrated monitor system. So feel free to listen to any of those sort of side-by-side comparisons again, but I'm excited to get on to talking about what's new in this VSX update. So this is the VSX software. This is what pairs with the headphones to give you that fantastic monitoring system. This can run as a system-wide standalone app, or you put it as the last effect on your mixer. This has to come right at the very end because this is all about monitoring. This plugin is actually bypassed when you export. If I go into the settings here, so auto bypass on export, or you can bypass it manually. So you listen to your mix through this, but this isn't to process your mix. It's not like you process and then you export a super spatialized mix. That's not what this is about. The best way for me to describe this is, you know how on the back of studio monitors, there's often like EQ settings. If you were to adjust all of those EQ settings to give you more bass, more treble in your room, that's obviously not going to actually affect the bass or the treble in your mix. It's just for your monitoring, and that's how this works as well. All of the changes you make in this software help you hear your mix better so that it can translate into different environments, but you don't export anything through this software. The next question that we always get is, well, can't I just pair the software with the headphones I already have? And I'll show you why that doesn't really work. This software was custom built for these headphones, but even though it's custom built for the headphones, there's still slight variations between each production run of headphones, and you'll know this if you've ever made anything. For instance, mine are the 25 series, but we're now up to 37, so mine are getting quite old. But each batch of headphones is measured and tested to make sure that it's compatible with the application. If you've ever used other room simulation products, and I'm pretty sure I've used all of them, or all of the main ones on the market, what you'll find is on some headphones, it sounds okay, and on other headphones, everything falls to bits, and this has been my experience with the other ones. It's quite confusing and it's very frustrating. Whereas with VSX, you know you have the right headphones for the app. Okay, so that's enough sort of background. So as you probably know, it gives you loads of different monitoring and reference environments to work in, and there's so many here. The point is not to switch between all the different rooms and get your mix sounding perfect in every single room. The point is to listen to your music and find rooms that are useful or fun or helpful for you. So in my case, after listening to a bunch and working on them, I like the yellow matters with the far fields. You can see that you can switch between the near fields, the mids, and the fars. I like the far fields on yellow matter. Another room that I really appreciate is the Sonoma Studio, the mid fields. There's something about this room that helps me mix the transients of drums. I don't quite know what it is, but I don't spend my time going through a bunch of different rooms. There's other rooms, for instance, like the Zuma Studio. This is some people's favorite studio, and for some reason, it just doesn't work for me and my ears, and that's why they've given you so many different rooms. If we just scoot along a little bit further, you can see they've got like a cell phone, boombox, and then a bunch of different headphone models, just so that you can compare and monitor in different environments. You'll see, if I go through here, I've got a few of my favorites saved here. Like I said, I've got Yellow Matter, I've got the boombox, I've got these LCD headphones, and then the new Human Linear. So if I go down here, you'll see speaker version 5.0. That's the biggest change here. They've rebuilt the modeling from the ground up. And when people say that, I'm always like a little bit skeptical. I'm like, okay, but 4 to 5 really does sound different, so I'll believe them there. The keen-eyed among you will notice that we used to have this sort of normal, what's that, a 5-band, so a shelf and then 3-band EQ. When we go to the 5.0 speaker version, you'll see that there's a new E.C.C.O, which stands for ear canal curve optimization, which will make sense in just a second. So you still have an EQ that you can adjust that's actually a lot more precise with more bands than the previous one. The team at Stephen Slate Audio have noticed that the shape of your ear canal, the shape and size, quite dramatically changes how you hear sound, so on monitors and headphones. And it's not subtle, it can be as much as an 8 dB difference. Whenever I show off headphones like these biodynamics, there's always people that go, yep, those sound great. And there's always tons of comments from people saying they sound incredibly harsh in the treble, like they can't bear listening to music on them. And this makes sense. It's because we all hear that sort of upper mid-range or treble very differently depending on our ear shape. So you'll notice E.C.C.O Cal. If I click here, you can select the headphones or the serial number, and then it runs you through this test. So obviously there's nothing really for you to hear. I mean, I can show you what the test tone sounds like. The test literally takes a few minutes, like maybe 5 minutes. You adjust all the values basically until everything sounds the same. Once you skip ahead, you can test it with some different types of music and dial in the amount. For some reason, I like quite a low amount of this curve optimization. It's probably because my ears are so used to adjusting the sound that if I ran it up to 100%, it would probably be too much for me. Anyway, you save that and finish. I've already got a profile, so I'm not going to save this one. And then I can dial in the amount that I like. Actually, I had it set at about 40%, so not 20%, like I said. So I just dial this in until things sound natural to me. Now, the reason I did those mixes at the start for you is because there's no way for me to actually show you the sound of VSX on your headphones or system. But to me, when I put both cups on, it quite literally sounds like the music is coming from the loudspeakers in front of me, and it's a really trippy experience. I am working on ways to try and show the sound of headphones in my videos. I'm experimenting with in-ear microphones, but it's not quite there yet. There are a few negatives that I want to talk about a little bit further in the video, but I do want to talk about this human linear mode because that's another thing that's very new with this. And they, SSA, have a great video explaining what this is, but in short, it is in these headphones creating the sound that you would hear if you were sitting in a perfectly calibrated room with perfectly calibrated studio monitors while accounting for your own ear canal curve. This is one where I'm just going to have to do some more mixes on it and see if it works for me, but it is certainly something I've never heard before in headphones. But something that definitely is useful that they've just added with this update is being able to change the gain of individual speakers. For different people, there's going to be a jump in volume, so you can just adjust the gain of each speaker individually so that it's a very smooth experience for you. And as far as I'm aware, that's a change that's been applied to every single room. So if I go through here, yeah. But like I said, I'm not jumping around every single room. I mean, they've got all sorts of stuff in here. They've got, actually, that's the new club. They've got the old club 4.0. When you first get VSX, it's really fun to like jump through all of them, but it'd probably be quite dizzying. So listen to, some music that you know and trust, like open up Apple Music or Tidal or Spotify or whatever you use. Listen to a bunch of music with it on system-wide and see which ones sound really good to you. The rooms that you enjoy, those will be the ones that are probably going to be most useful to mix on, because when you're mixing, as long as you get your music to sound good and in a way that you enjoy it, similar to that stuff online, then when you bypass VSX and export it, you're going to have a mix that sounds very similar to that sort of stuff. So obviously I'm overwhelmingly positive about this system, but there are a few things, maybe a few sort of negatives that I want to highlight. And one is a question that I get, which is, well, if VSX is so great, why do I even have monitors? Why wouldn't I just use this 24/7? Now, the truth is I use VSX when I'm traveling and when I need to mix on my laptop and when I'm outside away from the studio. I do use it in the studio as well. It's a great reference. But I personally prefer mixing on loudspeakers and monitors if I have to be in the studio all day listening to music for 8 or 9 hours. I'd rather do that on monitors and a little bit of headphones than spend, say, 8 hours with headphones on my head. That's going to apply to any headphones. But I couldn't wear the VSX for like an 8 or 9 hour session. It would just be too much. And that's where I find loudspeakers to be easier. Something related to this is that I'd love to see like an open back version of these VSX. Now I know they want closed back for the sound isolation and to keep everything really sort of tight and punchy. I feel like their software is so far ahead of anyone else. And I feel like it's probably time that their hardware was also way further ahead than anyone else. Right now, they're just a good pair of headphones, but I think if they came out with like an astonishingly high quality pair of headphones and paired it with this software, I think there'd be absolutely no competition at that point. The last thing to mention is when I got VSX, it was only available as just a one-off purchase of the regular or platinum bundle, but they very recently added a rent-to-own option, so you put down some money up front and then you pay monthly, but importantly, it's zero interest. So it's a bit like some of the other plugins you might know, like Serum has a rent to own option. I did that. It's great. You don't pay any extra for the thing. You just spread the cost out. So that is something that's good to see. Okay, so as usual, for any more information or for links to buy it, you can check the description. I'll put everything down there. If you got this far in the video, it's clear to see that I like and enjoy using this system. So if you've got any questions about it, just let me know in the comments down below. But as usual, I hope you have a great week and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.